Woe be unto him who opens one of the 7 gateways to hell, because through that gateway, evil will invade the world.
Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. In this little town, when the 14th comes round, there's a silence and fear in the air. Remember the morn that the legend was born, all the shock and the horror was there. Oh, the legend, they say, on a Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. And no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago.
All right, guys, here for another fun-filled episode, the last of 1981 besides the big video essay. This is a special one. I've kind of got together, like, I guess, a elite group of horror experts here to do their top 10 of 1981. We have Bruce Holecheck from Cinema Arcania. How's it going, Bruce?
Going very well. Happy to be here, and I'm very curious to see how all of our lists compare to each other's. I have a feeling one of these might be a little different than the others.
We also have Art Edgelord Editor from his last episode is the nickname he got, editor of Ultraviolet Magazine. How's it going, Art?
I resent being called an edgelord, especially given the extreme sweetness I displayed to the rest of you, laying on very thick how much I admire and adore you all, yet I'm the fucking edgelord. So,
we love you too, Art.
Love you.
We
guys.
have Troy Howarth, writer of many books of genre classic directors. How's it going, Troy?
Good. Very happy to be part of this Algonquin roundtable.
And we have Nathaniel Thompson from Mondo Digital, and also a guy who's done a million commentaries.
Also very glad to be here. And 500,000 of those million were with Troy. So there you go.
There we go. So he's catching up.
And like 2 were with me.
And Holecheck and I have our own little cottage industry going here, but we're not going to catch up, and nor do we want to.
Maybe we will all collaborate at some point on a commentary for The Thing.
There we go.
There you go.
Yes, everybody's favorite movie. So the rules are kind of a little different here. We're going to do the top 10, but I have everybody's list. So if somebody has it higher on a list, it's going to be higher. It's going to be discussed once. Every movie's going to be talked about once. And then there'll be some stats that will be quickly read off at the very end, comparing each other's list and who had the most unique list and all these kind of things. Let's start Nathaniel Thompson with his number 10.
My number 10, a movie I've loved ever since the VHS era when I had to import it from Canada, and that is Jess Franco's Bloody Moon. Did anybody else pick it?
No, it is not on anyone else's list.
So
Alrighty, okay.
I was so close to putting this on my list, but I couldn't figure anything else to drop. So I do know both me and Nathaniel have a very almost unnatural affinity for Bloody Moon, but it's his number 10, so I will defer to his comments.
Well, so I'll keep it quick. I adore this film. This is a slasher film on steroids. It is nuts. It takes place at a girls' language school where at least one psychopath is running amok, but probably 2. It beat Lucio Fulci to the punch by having a Disney character involved as a slasher persona, Mouse in this case. It is just a ton of fun. Lots of great gore effects. The dialogue is insanely quotable. Only watch it English dubbed. That's the best way to see it. I've seen it countless times, and Pedro Almodovar even had someone jack off to it at the beginning of Matador. So if that isn't a seal of approval, I don't know what is. So, Bloody Moon for me.
You did not mention the director and why it was atypical for them.
I said Jess Franco.
Did you?
I did. That was the first
No.
time.
All right. Well,
Yes.
well, how about that? I'm just going to fuck it up from Jump Street. So.
Okay. But yes,
Yeah,
it is
definitely
a Franco film. This is a very atypical Franco film. This
Yeah.
is one of his few straight-ahead slasher horror films. It's also one of the few films where he actually kills an animal, unfortunately. I don't like that bit. But yeah, it doesn't feel like a Franco film particularly, but yeah.
No. It doesn't feel like any film particularly.
Yeah. It feels like it was shot on Mars. But
Right,
yeah.
right. The disco themes, it's gory, it's crazy. Yeah, big fan
Wonderful
of Bloody
score
Moon.
too.
Right.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's awesome.
I guess we're going to Art Editor's number 10.
My number 10 is not on anyone else's list. Is that what you're telling me, Dave? Which is Nightmare, also known as Nightmares in a Damaged Brain. Is that
Well,
actually?
we could say the title first, and then we'll let you.
Okay,
We'll say it's on
I
the list
see.
before we
My
talk
number
about
10 is Nightmares in a Damaged Brain, aka Nightmare.
That
it. It
was
is not on
another.
anyone else's list.
That was another one that almost
All
made
right,
my
you
list.
guys, this is a bad start. Okay, now listen. I said a lot of nice things about you all, including you, Nathaniel. Nathaniel, you are one of the brightest people in the field. You picked Bloody Moon over Nightmares in a Damaged Brain?
Proudly.
Okay. All right. That makes me respect you even more, but now, you are a little bit more off than I thought.
10 times out of 10, I do the same thing.
Okay, so Nightmares in a Damaged Brain, I think we all can agree, is one of these, semi-international, bizarro, just, what the fuck is this, gory, family drama gone,
Gone haywire. Right.
Yeah, and it's another movie that I always kind of liked, cool movie. And then I went through a very brief period where I was booking movies. Now I sort of assist in movies getting played here, but I wouldn't say that I'm booking movies now. I just sort of hook people up with this cool local theater and this great local booker. But back then I was actively booking movies, and we did a double feature of Pieces and Nightmares in a Damaged Brain, and it just was like movie magic. I mean, so that's a movie. Not all movies are better on the big screen, right? But this movie just with a loud, rowdy audience is just so fun.
Yeah,
and,
it's such a sleazy and it's oppressively mean-spirited. You have the guy going in New York and having his fits, and then he has a single-minded road trip, which you don't really find out, his connection till later in the movie. But yeah, it's a really mean, nasty little movie. It's usually lumped in with slasher movies, I feel it's kind of in that same like sort of psycho thriller vein as like Maniac and Don't Answer the Phone and things like that. So yeah, it almost made my list, but didn't.
Well, and mad props to Mike Gingold, who has been collecting novelizations since he knew how to read, and since being a little kid, he finally got to write a novelization, and this is his first one, and he nailed it. Like, I didn't read the whole thing. I started reading it, though, and he did a great... Well, we're busy. I didn't read the night, but I started reading it, and it's fucking
I read the back
great.
cover. Come on.
No, it is really good. He did a
I
really
looked at
good
the
job.
pictures.
I read enough of it to know that he did a really fucking good job, and I will read the rest of it as soon as I get done talking to you all tonight about your ridiculous picks for the top 10 movies. But
Halloween meets Maniac, right?
Well, like Severin is doing these amazing tie-in items, like the Severin.
I bought that. That was the one I bought. I hadn't bought any of the other novelizations, but I did buy Night of the Demon. I bought the statue and the novelization. Yeah. The statue being a Bigfoot holding a man's ripped off penis.
Yeah. I mean, how can you not have that in your curio cabinet next to shit Grandma gave you? But
exactly.
No, Nightmares and a Damaged Brain should be on everybody's list, but I'm not gonna. Hey, I kissed your ass last time. I'll be good now. I'm done. Okay.
I actually screwed up. Troy should have been next, but we'll just go in that order. We'll go Nathaniel, and then Art, and then Troy, then Bruce, then myself. So, Troy, what's your number 10?
I'm used to getting screwed over. It's okay. It's only me. So my choice is very traditional by comparison. This is an old-fashioned style film from the 80s. It's Paul Naschy's Night of the Werewolf, which was a remake, actually, of his big breakout international hit, Werewolf versus the Vampire Women, or Werewolf Shadow, whatever you want to call it, from 1971. He hadn't been particularly thrilled with the way that movie turned out, although it was very successful. So when he later started directing his own films, obviously he'd been writing his own scripts and starring in them, started directing, and he decided to do his own period set remake with higher production values. And it's a really good film, but it's a good indicator of why Naschy kind of struggled in the 80s, because it is admittedly very out of step with the times.
AKA The Craving.
The Craving, yes.
The Craving, yeah.
With the Too Risky a Day for a Regatta theme song from Tentacles reworked into the opening credits, which is a lot of fun.
I think it's a great choice, and it was on my extended list, which I narrowed down, of course, and definitely a fine title.
Yeah, I need to rewatch it. I remember not liking it as much as Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman, but it's funny. I was just talking about that movie last week with my buddy Brian Sen, who he wrote a complete werewolf filmography book. So he went through all the werewolf movies, good, bad, and ugly. And he said that he actually ranked The Craving higher. He thought it was one of the best of the 80s. So yeah, I have Mondo Macabre recently put out Dr. Jekyll and the Werewolf, and I watched that with a buddy. So that kind of had me itching to go back and revisit some of these other Paul Naschy movies I hadn't seen for a while. So I actually pulled pretty much all my Blu-rays of Paul Naschy movies for some watches over the next month or so. So The Craving, or whatever the hell the original title was, that is definitely in my queue to be rewatched.
Good stuff.
I think it's excellent movie. Very entertaining. Most underrated werewolf movie of the year, hands down. I mean, there's like 6 from this year. So.
Wow, it was a big werewolf year.
Right.
Yeah. Bruce?
My number 10 is, I'm going to guess this is going to be on somebody else's list at a higher place.
Yeah.
Andrzej Zulawski's Possession.
Of course. Yes. Of course. Yeah. Of course. So we'll get back to that. We'll all get to talk about that at some time. My number 10, I'll just quickly go through this movie. You go back and forth what your number 10 is. You have like 4 or 5 that can be it. But I decided to go with the Canadian weirdo movie, The Bit. It's not necessarily better than some of these movies, but I just have an affinity for it. The time I saw it, and it's just such a weirdo movie. I love that the idea that the kid, he's talking to this teddy bear, and the teddy bear is not real. And then all of a sudden, for no apparent reason, the kid's not in the room. The teddy bear looks at the camera. So I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? The teddy bear is real? Right. And then the troll, I mean, the novelization is completely different, but I just think it's an excellent, weirdo, sleazy, creepy kid movie. It's probably my favorite killer kid movie, and I never registered that. the pit.
Feeding kids to the troglodytes back in the woods and stuff. And it's such a weird movie. And like everybody in that movie is like a shithead, and like the kid's like really annoying. And yeah, it is a weird movie.
Anybody else on the pit or no?
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I can't what is there to say? The artwork is awesome. Like, I have a one sheet for that movie, even though like it'll never exit the box I have it kept in, just because like it's so cool, you know.
I weirdly have all the promo photo negatives for that movie for some reason.
It would be weird if you didn't have all the promo negatives for 6,000 movies in your collection.
Well, I do have that as well.
So we'll get to Nathaniel's number 9.
Okay, I'm sure this is probably on someone else's list. My number 9 is Burial Ground.
It is higher on someone else's list.
I figured so. Move on.
Art?
My number 9?
Yes.
God, if this isn't on anyone else's list, I'm going to be downright sad. And it probably isn't, you fuckers. My number I can't even say it. I'm so on edge. Please, this is the closest I come to praying. Let someone have this on their list. Number 9 is Roar.
It is not on my list.
No.
Roar the animal.
Oh my god. Okay, so not to belabor the point. So, Alamo Drafthouse in 2005, I think. Yes. They struck new 35mm prints of this relatively obscure. I'm sorry, 2015. Did I say 2005? I meant 2015. And they took this relatively obscure old movie that I had heard of but never had seen, put it back into theaters. Some of us got to see it on film. This crazy, like, semi-real story. Like, you may have seen photos of like a young teenage Melanie Griffith like just hanging out with like a pet tiger or lion or whatever. Like, that shit was real. These Tippi Hedren and her bizarre family lived with like a bunch of actual animals, and I'm not talking like kind of weird animals. Like,
it's like
I'm
30,
not talking like
30 giant big cats.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not talking like Frida Kahlo having like a little monkey on her shoulder. I'm talking like fucking like animals that could kill you, like just like at the side of your bed. This movie is just like absolutely insane, and it was one of these things where like, you know, just restoring it and reminding people about it was just a wonderful experience, and seeing it theatrically, it's kind of fresher in my mind maybe than some other 1981 movies. But yeah, definitely one of those late in life discoveries. Not a movie that I'd seen before. I'd heard of it, but I saw it in 2015 on its re-release, and highly recommend Roar for animal lovers and animal haters.
So I was.
Or if you're ever in LA, you can actually like go up to Tippi Hedren's Big Cat Preserve, and you can, you know, reenact your favorite scenes up there. It's
she has one? Oh, wow. Well, I am planning on returning to LA this summer. We actually just were talking about that. So, yeah, perhaps you could take us there, Nathaniel.
Come on, I'll be happy to be your guide. We'll go up there.
Hell
Look,
yeah.
I would literally fly out for that.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
So yeah, I'm in the same boat. I didn't see Roar until the theatrical re-release of it as well. And literally I almost had a stroke in the theater from laughing so goddamn hard during this movie. It is honestly one of the most insane things I'd ever seen. And there's the one guy, you know, the guy who plays the best friend, like, you know, the black dude in like the safari getup. There are scenes of him just like sitting around these cats, and he's trying to like say dialogue, but these cats are like doing shit in the periphery, and you can see just the look of total fear. Like every time,
everyone in the movie.
Yeah, every time a cat like even moves in the periphery, he like flinches, and just like it was one of the most insane screenings I'd ever seen in my entire life. I literally I was hoarse the next day because I was laughing so hard from this movie. Now the question is it a horror movie?
That's why I didn't pick it.
If Art thinks it's a horror movie, it is for him.
Thank you. So I was just having that conversation with Bruce the other day, and I said the exact same thing. I said, Bruce, if you think something's a horror movie, it's a horror movie, you know?
There you go.
And like, that's how, you know, now if some, you know, I don't ascribe like that, that skill set to just anybody, but any of you three, like, fine.
Right.
You want to call something a horror movie? I have at least one title on my list that really probably isn't one, but I'm going to argue it is.
Well, to Jan de Bont, it was a horror movie because his scalp almost got entirely ripped off while he was making
I know.
it.
Yeah, Jan de Bont, they had to re-sew half his head on, right? It's just like...
I would never agree to do that movie. Ever.
Well, they lived this raw experience. Like, they had these animals.
Yeah, but the crew, I would be like, no.
No, just like the beginning of the movie, this guy's like jogging with a giraffe. It's like, you don't do that. like you don't do that. Like,
I leave wild animals alone.
Like,
right. Like if Franco Prosperi's Wild Beasts has taught me anything, it's to stay the fuck away from live wild animals.
I mean, I'm scared of people's pets.
Dangerous enough.
Like I'm like the mailman who's scared of your dog. Like, I'm scared of people's pets, okay? And like the idea of like, oh, you're lying in bed and just some lion's gonna come hang out with you, fuck off. Like,
the movie makes me sick to my stomach when I watch it. I'm not gonna lie, it makes me very uncomfortable.
It's so insane. It's so insane. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Art's love of the movie. It's as an actual movie, it's crap, but as an actual geek show, it's insane. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life.
Troy, you're number 9.
Well, appropriately enough, this is one that is debatable, isn't it? Is it a horror movie or not? It's Venom.
It is. It's on your list.
I would say it's undoubtedly. I'm the only one who picked it. It's not a well-liked movie for some reason. I really don't know why. I think it's a ton of fun. It has an incredible cast: Klaus Kinski, Oliver Reed, Sterling Hayden, Nicole Williamson, Sarah Miles, Susan George. I mean, it's just chock full of wonderful actors. It's got a great score, which just came out on CD from Michael Kamen. It's one of his early efforts. And it's really slick. It's it's a movie with a fascinating history. It was started by Tobe Hooper, and obviously he got canned for one reason or another. There are differing stories about what happened there.
I think you mean Tobe Hooper.
Tobe Hooper, the infamous Tobe Hooper, who was such a fan of Seven Doors to Death. Yeah, and you know, infamous stories about Kinski and Reed just not getting along and tormenting each other through the shoot. You know, just sheer chaos on the set. But the movie itself, it's based very closely on a book by a South African writer, which is a kidnapping story that goes awry. There's a deadly snake, a black mamba that's loose in the house, and the police are outside in a standoff situation with the kidnappers and the prospective victims, and the snakes in the house. And I love it. I've always loved it. I think it's incredibly entertaining. Is it a horror movie? I don't know. It's a thriller, certainly. I think it's enough. It's got enough jump scares in it. I think it counts as a horror movie, but you know, that's just me.
I do as well. We had an episode on it. I'm also a fan of it. Just it's top 25 for me, but I don't think I can get it in that 10.
Yeah, I watched it when the Blue Underground DVD came out, and I don't know if it was a problem of me going in with different expectations. I had never seen it in the VHS days, so I was expecting more of a horror movie, and what I got was more of a thriller. So I was a little disappointed in that, and I haven't revisited it since, and I probably should at some point, but it's, you know, I watch hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of movies a year, so there's only so much time.
I understand. Well, maybe one day give it another shot, but I think it's tremendously entertaining. So yeah, it's not a masterpiece, but I like it a lot.
So I guess that's you, Bruce. You're number 9.
My number 9 was also Nathaniel's number 9 with Andrea Bianchi's Burial Ground.
It is on another list. I feel bad for Bruce because that's the second in a row for Bruce.
It's okay. I'm okay. That just means we all have good taste.
So it goes to me. My number 9 is, you know, it's not the best made movie, but I do have an affinity for these movies, and it took a little time. It's Friday the 13th Part 2. I think it's a better version of the first movie. I think Steve Miner directs the suspense well. I think it's kind of the quintessential slasher movie, to be honest, summer camp slasher. The wheelchair kill, it makes me laugh. I'm sorry, just because the idea that they put this poor guy in a wheelchair and you knew they were going to try to kill him as worse as they possibly could. Just fairly likable characters, genuinely kind of good suspense, scary slasher moments. Friday the 13th Part 2. I think it's one of the better. It might be the best, not my favorite. That's Part 5, but I think it's the best of the series.
Boo!
5's my favorite, but I think 2's the best.
5 is the best. Is the best. Oh my god.
I said it's my favorite. I don't think it's the best. So we're gonna go back to Nathaniel's number 8.
Nathaniel, did you want to chime in on Friday 13th too? I know you're a big fan of that one as well.
I love Friday. It killed me that I didn't put it on my list because I do love it a lot. I love this. And
it's a great movie.
Yeah, I do really love Friday 13th Part 2. I love that. Most of the entries in the series I'm actually a big fan of. But yeah, Part 2, the first 4 movies, the first 5 movies are like super, super special to me. Right. Part 6 is where it kind of starts to get a little shaky for me. But
exactly.
I agree. Even though it's a good movie, it's a comedy. I like Part 6 differently. But yeah, the first 5 I think are just that, they're like just pure joy for me. So yeah, good choice. So my number 8, I guarantee nobody else picked. This is my wild card choice, and I don't actually know anybody else who's a big fan of this movie, but I have loved this since I was a little kid and I first saw it on HBO. And I'm actually like kind of a fan of the whole series, but for some reason this movie just really hits the sweet spot for me, and that is The Final Conflict.
Oh.
It is the 3rd film in the Omen series. Got a lot of hate when it came out, but for some reason I just think it's great. I think Sam Neill is just gangbusters in this. He's actually in 2 of my choices for this year. I think he had a really good year. But I think he's a really good Damien. He has this really great like satanic Sermon on the Mount scene. It has some great kills. There's an awesome scene with like a monk getting like swung upside down across a TV studio and live TV set on fire covered in plastic. You have a great like live politician committing suicide live on camera years before it actually happened for real. You get this like this whole foxhunt sequence that I think is like one of the best scenes in the entire Omen series. It's just spectacularly shot. One of Jared Goldsmith's best scores. Yeah, I don't know. I really, really, really love this film, and everyone else hates it. And sorry, it is what it is.
I think the big reasoning for it getting a lot of flack is that for being such a crazed series, it kind of ended with a bit of a whimper compared to I think what people were expecting. Something bigger for the finale of the Omen trilogy.
Right. If you set that aside, if you just watch it for what it is, though,
I know
it's really good.
I'm not
I think
arguing
it's a
with
good
you.
movie. I like it.
I haven't seen it since I was a kid, but I would certainly rewatch it. I have fond memories of certainly the immolation sequence. So
that suicide scene is they add that little detail where his leg's twitching, right? There's some little detail about him twitching.
Yeah,
and I remember watching that.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, that is dark. That is very dark.
But yeah, it's very Bud Dwyer though. It's really creepy.
Yeah, it is very unpleasant to think that. So we have Art's number 8.
Well, someone's gonna whine and say it's not a horror movie, but I have one that's even less of a horror movie. But number 8 is Abel Ferrara's Ms. 45.
It is on someone else's list.
All right.
So I guess we'll jump into Troy. That would be, your number 8, Troy.
Yeah, well, I picked a Hong Kong film called Corpse Mania.
Ooh.
Yeah. You were going to say, what were you going to say?
I think our lists are mixed up, but it doesn't really matter. It won't change much. I think that your number 8, 7, and 8. Yeah, I think you switched them maybe, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. I did.
Well, all right. Well, let's stop making a fool out of me and let me talk about this.
Sorry. I know that was a mistake. It just threw the rankings at the end. It won't make it. I don't think it'll make much of a difference.
Damn son of a bitch. All right. Yeah. So it is essentially, well, actually the 2 movies, they have this in common. They're kind of variations on the Giallo. And this is definitely the case with this movie. This is a Hong Kong film about a killer targeting workers at a brothel. You're in for a good time. Yeah, it's incredibly stylishly shot. It has very much a kind of Mario Bava kind of gothic flavor to it, but it's also got the kind of, the creepy fetishistic details of the murder scenes and so forth that we associate with the Giallo. And I don't know how well known the film is and how popular it is or not, but I think it's a really good movie.
I would agree. I didn't see it until I don't even think it was on my radar until Image Entertainment started putting all those Shaw Brothers movies on DVD. And thanks to Nathaniel worked heavily on those. And I agree. I thought it was actually a really surprising, solid little movie, and one of the better titles that they put out, and one of the more horror-centric titles that they had put out. And like you said, it's basically like an Asian flavored Giallo. It's a period piece too, if memory serves, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, which also kind of adds a different air to it. But a really solid movie. I don't know why I didn't put it on my list, but it's a good one. It's definitely
Bruce and I have a contact, Ryan Smith, who actually is one of the few people, or the only person I know, who was able to purchase that weird like hard drive device that was released with a bunch of Shaw Brothers movies. What country released that? Singapore or something?
Yeah, I think so.
And,
The Z Eagle hard drive with like 650 Shaw Brothers movies on it.
Like,
yeah.
And so if you need anything, we got your back.
Yeah. I'm glad that Vinegar Syndrome did announce that, didn't they? Because the DVD is not great quality. It's very shaky.
Yeah, Vinegar Syndrome's doing the UHD, I believe.
Nice. It's a good movie. So we're going to Bruce. Your number 8.
My number 8. William Asher's Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, aka Night Warning.
It is.
I was going to say, I'm going to assume this is on other people's lists.
Bruce, you're not going to have a great time with lists. But it is on someone else's list.
Okay.
So we'll hop to my number 8 here. And this is a TV movie. I know some people didn't want to include it on their list, but this one blew me away when I saw it. Love it. Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. And I think I just fell in love with it because the group of character actors they have. Bad story of revenge, and it leaves it open to the fact that some people are like, oh, it's the Scarecrow. It's like, I really think it's very unique that this Scarecrow is probably being controlled by this little girl, some sort of telekinetic murderer, and they leave it open in that way.
Bubba didn't do it. Bubba didn't do it. So yeah, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow was one of the contenders I had on my original when I was trying to pare this list down. Dark Knight of the Scarecrow was on there. It is a really solid, really creepy movie, especially when you do take into account that was made for television. I can remember seeing it when I was young on TV, probably not during its initial airing in 81 because I was 4. But I definitely caught it later on a TV airing, and it really does kind of freak you out. It's a pretty intense, really well-crafted film.
That's a great one. And yeah, I decided not to do made for TV because there's so many good made for TV movies from that year. It would have thrown my list out of whack. So I decided I wasn't going to do it. But if I were, this would definitely be on my list. I love this movie. It really creeped me out. Yeah.
It's another one that it's not just the creepy, it's the tragic aspect of it. You know, I mentioned Don't Torture a Duckling earlier, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of that small town bigoted mentality, you know, the lynch mob mentality and everything, the outsider figure and all of that. You know, it's very, very affecting.
Mm-hmm.
The scene where the guy's getting suffocated in the silo, I think, like, actually legit traumatized me as a little kid.
Made me sick. They set all the kills up too. You know how they're all going to die right when they set it up.
Right.
Yeah.
To Nathaniel's number 7.
All right, my number 7. I've expressed my love for this on our Halloween 2 episode, and I'll reiterate it again, and that is Hell Night. One of my very favorite slashers from the year. Anybody else pick it?
No, you're not alone.
Okay. Bruce, come on, Bruce.
As we discussed on our Halloween 2 episode.
It's got Linda Blair. It's got amazing gothic atmosphere. Shot right here in SoCal. You can still visit the location. It looks the same today. It's got some really great scares, some nice plot twists, fantastic climax, really beautifully shot. Yeah, I just love it to death. It's one of those great little late night kind of popcorn curl up under blanket movies. And yeah, I've watched it like a dozen times. I could watch it again right now.
Yeah, I think where Hell Night really does kind of excel is the idea that, you know, they throw together this sort of costume party. So everybody's wearing these vintage outfits in this old Gothic mansion, which kind of gives it a feel of an old Gothic, even though it's actually more of a modern slasher.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it does kind of have that, which sets it apart a bit from the 1981 slasher boom. So it kind of does give it its own identity. Plus, for the most part, the characters are likable. And you had mentioned in our other episode, there's a few good scares there, a couple decent kills. So yeah, not a bad movie.
Good film.
But yeah,
well, and shout out to Tom DeSimone too. I mean, he had a nice little body of work, and we ran a wonderful interview with him in Ultraviolent. I did not do the interview, so for me to call it wonderful, I'm not the interviewer, but it was an excellent piece. And I mean, he had diverse kind of exploitation films from a few different angles, right? Like definitely a cool director, and you know, someone who went on to do a bunch of weird TV garbage, but like he had a nice little run there with Savage Streets and Hellhole, Report Schoolgirls, Angel 3, etc.
Well, and yeah, I mean, he did, and in the, you know, he was doing.
He did Concrete Jungle, right?
Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, he did like sex comedies. He did
Chatterbox, which was a huge one.
Oh, and he did gay porn too, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He did gay porn. He did Chatterbox. He did a lot of things.
He did 3D gay porn.
Yeah.
So did what's interesting is so did David Durston.
gives a whole new definition of coming at you.
David Durston and
Which is
Tom
another
Desmond
classic
were the
3D
3D
movie.
gay porn kings.
David Durston's a hoot. I just rewatched I Drink Your Blood the other weekend, and it's so goddamn good. But
You didn't rewatch Boy Napped?
Yeah, unfortunately, did not rewatch Boy Napped. But that's a discussion for another episode.
Art, are you ready for your 7? Oh, sorry, Nathaniel. What were you saying?
Oh, I just said Jamie Gillis' finest hour. Anyway.
Am I doing my 7th favorite 3D gay porn movie not directed by Tom Desmond
Of course.
or
Of course.
David Durston? How specialized are we getting here?
We're getting very special.
No, this is the one that someone's gonna go, it's not a horror movie. But fuck it. My number 7 choice. And I left off my number 1 movie in 1981, which truly isn't a horror movie. That's The Decline of Western Civilization. I'm not reaching that far. But this is number 7. And say it's not a horror movie if you want to, but my 7 is Polyester. John Waters' Polyester. It's like it has like enough of a genre angle and a little bit of violence, and fuck it, it's John Waters. If I want to call it a horror movie, I'll call it a horror movie, even if it's not a classic horror movie. So I don't think we need to say much about Polyester other than, you know, the scratch and sniff gimmick was hilarious. Anyone who hasn't seen it that way in a theater is missing out, and it's just it's just one of my comfort movies that you know, I will watch that movie. I mean, and then again, Rape Man is one of my comfort movies too. But anyway, it's a classic, and I just couldn't leave it off my list. And you know, fire away with your. It's not a horror movie, but
I love Polyester. I think it's hilarious. You know, being a Maryland native, of course, I have to, you know, theoretically love everything John Waters, but I do legitimately think it's a really, really funny movie. Just, you know, the bits with the girl, the daughter walking around, I'm going to get an abortion, and, you know, the porno theater playing My Burning Bush, and, you know, there's so many good gags. I know, you know, every one of the every single scratch and sniff bit in that movie is hilarious. But on no planet do I consider that a horror movie.
Not even the Baltimore Foot Stomper?
Not even the Baltimore Foot Stomper.
Oh, that's the Jerry Beardos he was obsessed with, right?
All right, look, I cheated. It's not a horror movie, okay? But I was prepared to argue that it was, but I couldn't leave it off. It just hurt me too much.
Yeah, I mean,
John
I do
Waters
love it.
is like a genre guy, so
right.
Yeah. It puts me in tears. It's very funny.
So
Troy?
funny.
My next one is well, it was, you know, as was pointed out, I got my order incorrect. But this is one that I guarantee you is on Art's list. It is My Bloody Valentine.
It is on somebody else's list.
It's not
maybe
on Art's
maybe
list.
not.
It's not.
But at least it's a fucking horror movie.
Bruce, your number 7?
My number 7, going with the theme of tonight, we are recording this on his death anniversary. Lucio Fulci's The House by the Cemetery. The house.
You know that's on
The house by the cemetery.
You know that's on
as Brother
else's list.
Theodore says in the trailer. I think it's Brother Theodore.
It is definitely Brother Theodore. It's on somebody else's list.
I figured as much. But apparently that's my theme for tonight.
Which my number 7 is also The House by the Cemetery, which is on somebody else's list higher. So we're going to go back to the start with Nathaniel and his number 6.
Which I suspect is probably on someone else's list, but my number 6 is The Great Dead and Buried.
It is, of course, is. And then we go to Art, and Art's number 6.
My number 6 was already mentioned by someone else as being on someone's list. My number 6 is Burial Ground.
This is the highest it made it, though, so let's all talk Burial Ground. Who else had it on their list?
I had it as number 9, and I believe Nathaniel did as well.
I very nearly included it.
Well, I mean, I think Bruce and I just did a thorough discussion of Burial Ground on your show. I mean, it's just like, it's like if I wanted to show someone like an incredible Italian horror movie, I would probably show them something like The Beyond. But if I wanted to try to convey to the average film watcher what it is that I particularly love about Italian or Euro genre fare, I might show them Burial Ground. It is so zany, so over the top. It was uncut all those years. Yeah, it was dark, but like it's 1:6:6, so like you weren't looking at bridges of people's noses. You were getting most of the picture, and it had a wide U.S. release, uncut, and just like that crazy man child. Peter, what's his name?
Peter Bark.
Peter Bark. Like, oh god! And now we can lie on a pillowcase as if we're Peter Bark. I mean, like, but no, Burial Ground is just a seminal slice of Euro absurd. But like the zombies are genuinely cool. They all look different, and it's actually, without hyperbole, my all-time favorite zombie movie. I love it so much.
Yeah, like we said on the episode, the zombies are basically just like nightmare creatures, and the whole plot of the movie is they're here and they're going to come after you until you're dead, and then it ends. So since me and Art have spent 2 hours talking about that movie, Nathaniel, this was also on your list. Do you want to say some words about Burial Ground?
I spent a whole commentary talking about it with Troy. So
that's right.
To say about it, but I love the variety of the zombie faces in this. I think it's great. Again, this and Fulci Zombie, I think I just have like the coolest like diversity of the concoctions, the crazy eyeballs and everything. Just love it, and the fact that they're like super crafty with the tools and everything. Yeah, it's a great movie and super nihilistic ending that I just adore. So yeah,
right. Yeah, I always try to describe the zombies in Burial Ground like if you asked a child to draw a zombie, and like that's what they end up looking like. Their eyes are all in the wrong spots, and like the teeth are all crazy and giant and crooked, and it's just like it doesn't make any sort of like actual anatomical sense.
Yeah.
But yes,
nor does the movie.
Exactly. So good.
Nightmare logic.
Yes, exactly.
Troy, your number 6.
My number 6 is a little movie that I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called The Beyond.
No,
What's
never
that?
heard of it. It's definitely on list. It's definitely on some more list. Okay, so we're gonna hop to Bruce. Your number 6.
My number 6 is My Bloody Valentine.
It is higher on someone else's list.
Okay.
So my number 6 is another slasher. I just got done talking about the quintessential summer camp slasher, and I'm gonna look like a jackass here because I have one higher above it, and that's The Burning. But I think this one I've always been in love with. It was kind of like, it was hard to find when I was a kid. So when I eventually got a hold of that stupid Amazon tape, I watched it about 100 times. I showed all my friends, from the Wakeman score, I love it, to the opening kind of Gialli-esque maniac scene. It's not a perfect movie. I understand this, but I love the effects. I love the characters, from Woodstock to Glazer. I think they're well established. Hell, Jason Alexander is Dave. There's a lot of good dialogue in here. A lot of it's shot in broad daylight, which is rare. I think that most of the effects still hold up. Some of them look a little rubbery, but this one, it's just a really kind of well done slasher that establishes its characters well before it picks them off, and it's got a great cast that went on to do a lot more. So, The Burning.
2 things about The Burning real quick. Number 1, I have a soft spot for the fact that it was shot in my hometown of Buffalo, New York. And number 2, it's yet another thing we can point to where we can all agree that Harvey Weinstein was a great man.
Saint, I won't hear a word against him.
So what wasn't The Burning like shot right across the lake from like Friday 13th Part 2 or something? Weren't they like on the opposite sides of the same lake or something?
Right.
They shared the same fire camp scene.
Or am I making that up? So what I like about The Burning mainly, which I like but I don't love as much as you, I think its characters are a little annoying at times. Its photography is amazing. It's probably one of the best looking slasher movies there is. And then that Rick Wakeman score is probably one of the best scores you're going to get for a slasher movie, or any horror movie, really. It's a really wild score. And then that raft scene is also probably one of the best scenes in all of slasher movie history. So it does have a lot of good things about it, but not enough to make it on my top 10.
Like, the problem with slashers for me is that the best slashers are so much better than the tier 2 slashers. When you take something like Silent Night, Deadly Night, or Sleepaway Camp, or Friday the 13th Part 5, or Nightmare at Shadow Woods, and you compare those movies to, or Pieces, like, you compare those movies to something like The Burning or The Mutilator, it's just like, I just can't see it. I just can't, like, hold those second tier slashers up as great when you have such similar movies that are so much better. But not to pick on your choice, that's just my problem with lots of subgenres of movies, right? It's like, you don't want the Pandora's Box to be the first silent movie you see, because then you're going to be chasing that dragon and watching 100 movies that are nowhere near as good as Pandora's Box, you know?
Exactly, right.
So, Nathaniel Thompson's number 5?
My number 5 is Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker.
And Bruce also had that on his list. That's the highest it's got.
This is the highest? Okay. Yeah, again, one of maybe the most unorthodox slasher movie of, if it is a slasher movie, kind of that year. Again, I did a commentary with the screenwriter on that one, which was like one of my very favorite tracks I've ever done. I love this film. I think it's so strange and yet just so compelling. I love just the weird sort of psychosexual subtext on so many levels of it. It's way ahead of its time, especially with the crazy homophobic cop. Jeremy McNichol is great in this. Susan Tyrrell just like chews the scenery, spits it out, chews it again.
She is absolutely out of control in this movie.
Crazy. I mean, there's no other performance like this in any other movie. And like the last 30 minutes with the lightning and the thunder, and you got Julia Duffy from Newhart running around screaming. I mean, it's just like, it's a great movie. I love it.
Yeah, what I really like about it is that it's almost like David Lynchian, in that you kind of have like this just plain suburbia, but he kind of like shows you what's going on like behind the closed doors. This really like sick, like incestual story, just full of murder and sexual perversion. And weirdly enough, like, so it's director William Asher. He was a big TV guy. He directed like hundreds of episodes of I Love Lucy and Bewitched, and like he was married to like Elizabeth Montgomery. And like his only features, I think, or like his main, his most popular features that he directed were beach party movies in the 60s. So when he was doing Night Warning or Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, he was like 60 years old. So it's kind of like a really weird choice for to direct a sort of modern horror movie, like you said, a sort of psycho thriller slasher. But I kind of think that his style, or lack thereof, the fact that he was such a TV guy, it's a very plainly shot film, but I kind of think that makes the material work that much better. It kind of makes it that much sicker and that much creepier, the fact that it's presented so flatly. But yeah, great film. And actually I just rewatched it last night in prep for this, and it still holds up just as well as it ever does.
And you can watch it back to back with Christy McNichol in Little Darlings from the year prior, and then you can listen to the album that she and her brother recorded together, and you can think about Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker, and Little Darlings, and your head will spin.
Right.
If you hold on a few weeks, you can actually watch both of them in UHD.
You in UHD, right?
Awesome.
Great film.
Correct.
Yeah, honestly, I'm shocked this did not make your list, Art.
My list was long, and I had a hard time narrowing it down to 10, and I don't know. My top 5, as you'll see, probably are in everybody else's list. But yeah, It was hard. It was a challenge doing this.
One more thing I do want to mention about the characters in Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker is just the presence of an actually sympathetic gay character, which in the 80s, especially the early 80s, that wasn't something that happened, especially in horror movies. Usually if you had any gay characters in your movie, they'd be like mincing stereotypes in like comedies and stuff. So it's really kind of a surprisingly nuanced script as far as its secondary roles go.
Not only that, but he goes totally unpunished. He's like the only character who has no violence committed against him whatsoever.
Well, he does get slapped in the face with a gun by a homophobic cop.
Well, yeah, but yeah, that's it though. He comes off the easy.
But he lives, right? He lives, right?
All right, Art, you're number 5.
If this is on no one else's list, my feelings will be hurt. No, I did not make the movie, but I sure adore it, and that is Bloody Birthday.
It's not on anyone else's list.
Oh, come on! Oh, you fucking posers! Oh, come on! Bloody Birthday is the ultimate evil kid movie. Like these kids are so bad. And the looks on their mean little faces. Like, what a goddamn fucking wonderful movie. And like they're peeping on Julie Brown.
Julie Brown's great in it. Like, I was so happy to see her.
Bloody Birthday is just off the rails crazy, and it's a lot of movies this could be said for, but this is one of many movies that just time has been very kind to it. Like, every time you watch it, it just gets better, because you're just like, you know, like definitely not something that would be likely made today, you know, like, yeah, sure, there's mean kids in movies, but not like this. This is like the meanest kids ever. And, yeah, no, Bloody Birthday is, it's a tight movie too. It's like very well constructed, very well edited. There's no fat. It's just like very tightly constructed, very underrated movie that I wish I saw sooner. It was not in my first round of my horror section as a kid. I had to do my second or third round before I was like, all right, finally, Bloody Birthday. How good can a movie called Bloody Birthday be? It turns out it can be pretty fucking good.
It is. A bunch of Eclipse kids running around with like bows and arrows, and they like lock a kid in the fridge, and like it's like that was like the big 80s thing, you know, don't play in fridges in the junkyard. But yeah, I quite like Bloody Birthday, just not enough to put it on my top 10 apparently.
Fun movie. Troy, your number 5?
Well, I mentioned that 1981 was a big year for werewolves, so not surprisingly, I've got The Howling at my number 5.
It's the highest. It's the only list.
Well, what can I say?
Well, I mean, it's such a great movie. I think any of us could have put it on our list. You know, it's no Bloody Birthday.
Oh, nothing is. It's not polyester either. It is, however, a horror film. And yeah, I love Joe Dante. His sensibility. He's a big Italian horror movie buff too, and his movies have a lot of references to the movies that he loved growing up. Lots of sort of Bava references and Hammer references and stuff like that. So this is the werewolf movie where everybody's named after directors who made werewolf movies. So you got Kevin McCarthy plays Fred Francis. John Carradine plays Earl Kenton, which is extra funny because John Carradine was in a couple of movies directed by Earl C. Kenton back in the 40s. There's a Terry Fisher, there's, Lou Landers, all kinds of references that just go the whole way through. George Wagner, Patrick McNee's character. Yeah, exactly. Jack Molina. And and lots of clips on TV of like the Wolfman and things like that. So it's a fun movie. I think very stylishly shot, kind of kinky in spots too. Doesn't quite reach the heights of Howling 2, but then again, few films do.
So okay. Nathaniel, do you want to talk about your issues with The Howling?
No, because I want to honor Troy's choice.
All right, good enough.
Wow, wait,
I like it, but I don't love it as much as.
Are you not a Howling fan?
I like The Howling, but it has major pacing issues.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat as Nathaniel. It's just last time I watched it, it just seemed like there was kind of a dead chunk in the middle.
There was a huge 45-minute chunk where absolutely nothing happens, and it became more obvious when I watched the UHD back to back with another movie we're going to get to.
Yeah, I love the werewolf. I love the werewolf designs. All the scenes with the werewolves are great.
Both you guys just need to go get fucked, okay? Because seriously, I didn't rag on any of your choices. Just shut the fuck up.
I would try.
I didn't want to talk about it.
Like The Howling, like if you take the other big werewolf movie that I'm sure all you assholes have higher up on your list, like this is the way better film compared to American Werewolf in London. It's just like it has a more serious tone. The werewolf transformations in both are awesome, but the way that it's done in The Howling, it's just like, oh my god, what a movie! I'm with you, Troy. I feel your pain.
Howling has an amazing character actor heaven. It does have a better cast. Maybe I think so. That's what I would give it to. I mean, it's one of John Carradine, my favorite roles that he did towards the later day in his career.
Well, it's one of the
John
very few
Carradine,
decent
no
movies he
David
made
Thorne.
in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially
like,
this year. He
Yeah, I
made
was
like
gonna say,
4.
like this or Frankenstein Island. What's the choice? You know?
Well, he did The Nesting as well. He did The Nesting, and I
Oh,
think he had
yeah.
another
Well,
one that I'm
yeah.
swinging. Well, who are we at now? I'm losing. Bruce is number 5.
My number 5 was also on Art's list, and that is Miss 45.
Have at it.
Oh, so I this is the highest ranking. So Abel Ferrara's Miss 45 is just amazing. It's some can argue that it's a bit more of an exploitation movie. It's about a garment worker played by the lovely Zoe Lund, Zoe Tamerlis, depending on how you want to refer to her. She gets assaulted twice in one day, and basically it's enough to make her snap, which is perfectly understandable. She kills the intruder, chops him up, starts depositing his body around the city, and then basically starts becoming a vigilante. At first killing people that seemingly deserve it, just total scumbags. And then as the movie progresses, you kind of realize that not only has she lost her, touch of reality, but she's also kind of lost her moral compass as well, because she just starts slaying any men, whether they're bad or not. I think it's a really, really solid movie. It's, I think, possibly Abel Ferrara's best movie, as far as I'm concerned. Zoe Tamerlis is great in the main role. You can't take your eyes off of her. Now, the arguments that it's not a horror movie, I would counter that with, the fact that, if you want to argue it's an exploitation movie, the assault scenes, the rape scenes are not as exploitative as you would expect, especially from somebody like Abel Ferrara, who's not exactly known for restraint. This is definitely not like Irreversible or, Buddy Giovanazzo's Life is Hot in Cracktown or something like that. Probably because the actress was only 17 at the time, so I'm sure that kind of limited what you're going to get away with. But it has less of a focus of that and more on her murder spree and the dismemberment. It does have gross out gags like bits of gristle floating back up in her tub. She feeds parts to a dog, and the whole goddamn thing ends with a Halloween party, which nothing says horror like a Halloween party. So yeah, Art, your thoughts on the wonderful Miss 45?
Well, so I favor Driller Killer just because I want to be Reno some days. That character is just so funny, and the way he talks, like going through the phone bill, like, wait, Queens is a local call. And he's just like, Abel Ferrara putting himself in Ms. 45 as the rapist, like, is just like an odd thing for a burgeoning auteur to do, right? Like, he's like, I'll cast myself as the rapist. Like, it's just very strange. He's strange. I love almost his entire filmic output, up to and including. I really like some of his bizarre foreign-funded, Italian-funded films like Mary and Go-Go Tales. Amazing movies that never got commercial releases here, I don't think. But Ms. 45, it's just like the image of Zoe Tamerlis, Zoe Lund with in the nun costume with the gun is just iconic, Yeah. And you can be an exploitation film and a horror film. I mean, sure, it's exploitation marketing, but revenge films, I think, overlap pretty heavily with horror films. I mean, like, if I Spin Your Grave is a horror film, why can't Miss 45 be? So,
right. And Ferrara's next movie kind of flirts with that as well, Fear City.
Absolutely. I think a lot of his movies, like most people would describe them as genre benders, but I would not be offended putting a big chunk of his movies into, like, the general genre film kind of category. But no, Ferrara is one of my all-time favorite directors. Him and Spike Lee actually share a lot in common stylistically and with their, like, New York roots, and they're two of my favorite, like, semi-mainstream American filmmakers. But Ms. 45, I do favor Driller Killer, but I also think that Ms. 45 just packs quite the punch. It's another movie that's really fun with an audience if you ever get the opportunity. But definitely warrants placement on a list such as this. I didn't have it as high up as you did, but it definitely was not going to escape my list.
I adore it. I didn't think it was enough of a horror film. I know. I just convinced myself because the list was too hard to make anyways. So
Right.
That was actually my rationale too. It's my favorite for a horror film, but I don't think it's a horror film. So, but had it been a horror film, it would have been near the top of my list.
Me too. Top 5. My number 5 is The Evil Dead. I know some people did not include it because they think that it was released in '83 wide, and that is the truth. But I go by Internet Movie Database, understand why it's not on other people's list completely. It is on someone else's list though, so we'll move ahead to Nathaniel's number 4.
My number 4 is, and God, I really can't believe it's even this low. Possession, Andrei Zulawski's masterpiece. Anybody else have it any higher?
Yeah, it's higher.
Wow.
Some more.
Okay.
Good.
So then we're going to Art's number 4.
My number 4, now that we're up to this high on the list, I'm afraid this might not appear on anyone else's list, which, it's hurtful. It downright hurts me. But my number 4 is Mystics in Bali. Mystics in Bali is just like, you think you've seen it all. You watch movies from all over the world. Then you watch your first fucking movie. Well, maybe it wasn't the first movie I saw from Indonesia. You watch one of your first Indonesian movies, and your mind is just blown that there's like this hugely populated country with this insane cinema. Mystics in Bali focuses on this headless monster. I can't pronounce the word. This type of monster is called a Panagalin or
Pentagon, yeah.
Pentagalin. And there's this whole mythology around it. Mystics in Bali is just off the rails zaniness from start to finish, and it comes from one of the most populated Muslim countries. Or no, it's not a Muslim country.
Indonesia?
No, I was thinking of Turkey. I was thinking of the Turkish cinema boom. Now I seem really culturally stupid.
I'm not sure, really, myself.
I'll find out.
It might actually be.
It is Muslim. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
no.
because they don't have nudity in their
like,
films at all.
Right.
It is Muslim, and so what's interesting about what our perception is of Islam and of Muslim countries, like some of the wildest film industries are in predominantly Muslim places, like Turkey and Indonesia. Pakistan is like a very Muslim country, and while there hasn't been a lot of genre output from there, what there has been is fucking wild, But Mystics in Bali was like an eye opener for me, and then I spent like half of a summer watching a shit ton of crazy Indonesian movies, and just like a movie that kind of like it's sort of like Blood Freak. It's like so one of a kind, seemingly, that when you first see it, you just want to shout from the rooftops that everyone needs to check this wild thing out, And it was not on most of our radar, even in the tape trading era. Like in the beginning of the DVD era, people started talking about Mystics in Bali heavily. And again, we ran a Indonesian horror article in Ultraviolent, also not written by me. I think Greg Goodsell wrote it, and that was a real eye opener for me, and real like led me down the path of no return, watching a bunch of these insane movies from a country that's almost 90% Muslim. So Mystics in Bali. Sorry guys, it's no American Werewolf in London.
I got Greg Goodsell to write that article actually, because he was like the only other person I knew at the time that was like as into like these crazy Indonesian movies as I was. And after he wrote that article, there was an article he wrote for Deep Red that I really, really loved, where he was looking at like just these crazy obscure sleaze movies. I'm like, yeah, do something like that, but for Indonesian movies. I think the first one I saw was The Warrior. Because that one,
81.
that one was that one actually you could get on tape here. There was a Puerto Rican tape that actually made its way into a couple US video stores. But yeah, Mystics in Bali didn't get a release over here till Mondo Macabro's DVD. But I do remember it being on the tape trading circuit, but late, some riffs of the Japanese tape. But yeah, that is a wild movie. I mean, the sight of that head flying around with all its guts hanging out from the neck, and it's like eating babies and shit, like it's fucking bonkers.
We are on a deadline.
Yeah, Indonesian cinema is a world unto itself.
I'm just trying. I'm not trying to rush, but I know that Troy's got a deadline.
I have to go soon. Honestly, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish this out.
we're gonna have to do this really quick within a couple minutes, and possibly, or we'll at least get Troy's entire list out before he goes.
You want to just do mine, and you can edit however you want to do it. I mean, it's up to you. It's just I gotta go soon.
We can. We're at Troy's number 4, right?
Number 4, yes. Number 4 is another obscure film that I doubt anybody's heard of. It's The House by the Cemetery.
It is higher on a list. So all these other movies are all on other people's lists. There's 4 or 5 movies, and hopefully we can get through them quick. And then after Troy, we're to Bruce.
My number 4 is Dead and Buried.
It's higher on a list.
Okay.
And then we go to me, and my number 4 is Dead and Buried. It's higher on a list. Then we're going back to, you see what I mean? We're towards the end now. We're smooth sailing. We go to Nathaniel's number 3, and this is the highest it's on a list, I believe.
My number 3, much to Art's joy, is going to be My Bloody Valentine, one of my very favorite slasher films and one of the great holiday hits. So yes,
it's on.
Love it.
I don't know what else I can say about it. It's one of the great slashers.
It is. I agree. It's very atmospheric. I like the characters. I like the setting. I like the iconic look of the killer in its uncut form. It's got some really nice, juicy kills, which were censored, obviously, for a long time. And I find it irresistible. I always have. It's one of those movies I saw when I was probably far too young. My parents were very lenient about what I was allowed to watch, and I remember watching My Bloody Valentine. And it's got a place in my heart.
Yeah,
From the director of Pinball Summer.
There you go. The fact that the uncut footage was finally recovered and put back in the movie is just like something we never ever thought would happen throughout the 80s. You know, the censored scenes from that movie were just like legendary. But yeah, I agree with Troy 100%. You know, it made my list at number 6. The characters are great. The kills are fantastic. The killer's look is really striking. There's really not much else that I could really nitpick about the movie. I do think one of the funniest things about it is that they don't try to give you any red herrings or anything. Like, they immediately just are like, oh, it's Harry Warden, he's back, and then just stick to that for the rest of the movie. They never even introduce any doubt that it's Harry Warden, which I always think is kind of funny, where, you know, some of these other ones are set up a little more mysterious, but this one they're like, nope, we know who's doing it, it's him, look out. And then
until it isn't.
Right, until it isn't.
Great movie. Regional charm coming out of its ears, right?
Right.
So after I'm getting tired myself here. So we have I'm losing my place. So is Art, right? Art is number
yeah. Well,
number 3, Art. That was just Nathaniel's number 3.
My number 3 is an obscure little movie called The Beyond.
I think that's higher on somebody else's list. So we're gonna go to Bruce. No, we're going to Troy.
Number 3.
Dead and Buried.
That is the highest it's on a list. It's my list. Made 4 list.
Okay, well, the 4 people with the best taste have this movie on this list. And, it's, you know, Gary Sherman, the director, has not had the career that he really deserved. But if you look at his body of work, you know, he made this wonderful horror film in Britain in the early 70s, which is a rare example of a British kind of splatter movie in a way in the 70s, called Deathline or Raw Meat. Donald Pleasance and Christopher Lee. It's a terrific film. Then he makes this movie, which is, you know, it's obviously written by Dan O'Bannon. And it has this wonderful kind of, I guess you could call it folk horror in a way, you know, the vibe, the atmosphere, although it's not quite in that wheelhouse, but it's very much its own thing, with a wonderful performance from Jack Albertson, his last performance. You know, he owns that film, and he's just terrific. And he got, you know, some younger performers who would go on to big things like Lisa Blount and Robert Englund crop up in it as well. It has a wonderful, weird atmosphere, and very just, I think, again, builds to an ending that is creepy, but also very emotionally affecting.
And it's deserved. The ending's not a cheat either.
Oh, yeah. It's not a cheat. One sentence to say it. I love the movie to death. I think it's the most underrated movie of the year. If Twilight Zone were a video nasty, amazing cast. That's all I have to say. Great movie.
Yeah, and one of the things I noticed rewatching it, you know, and I think I ranked it number 4 on my list. There's a character in the movie who, you know, at the end of the movie, it's revealed, you know, something else that he doesn't know. I don't want to spoil it in case somebody hasn't seen it. But if you watch that character, as the movie progresses, he starts like rubbing his fingers, like as the movie progresses more and more. It's like little details like that really kind of like, once you know what's going on, it really kind of pays off. And it's nice to see that, you know, they were kind of thinking about it and putting those sort of little details in there. So I do think it's a better movie than some people give it credit for. I'm happy to see it rating so high amongst all of us except Art.
Nathaniel, do you have anything?
It's a perfect film. Love it. Great twists and a great score. Love the atmosphere. The beachside atmosphere is great. And the opening is just a killer one. If that doesn't like make you sit down and watch the movie, like nothing will. It's just like that first 5 minutes is just like boom.
Right.
Welcome to Potter's Bluff.
I like the movie, okay, guys?
I mean, there's too many great ones for 81. It's just all these movies are great. I don't dislike any of these movies.
Right.
So we're going to Bruce's number 2?
Number 2 or number 3? It's number 3.
Yeah.
My number 3 was The Beyond.
It's on another list, higher.
Okay.
So then my number 3 is American Werewolf in London. It's on another list higher. Then we're going to restart with Nathaniel's number 2.
My number 2, and this was hard because I only wanted to pick one Fulci. This could have gone House by the Cemetery, but I am The Beyond, my number 2.
Okay.
Which we've already discussed at length.
Yeah.
Yes. It is higher on another list. So we'll talk
Really?
about it.
No way. Wow.
It is higher. And then we're going to Art's number 2.
My number 2, because I'm the thinker here, is Possession. One of the
Higher.
most like you're in the horror section as a kid, best drawn video, mainstream label. Hell, as we've all been discussing, they hit pay dirt with a little movie called Dirty Dancing that they released theatrically. I had no idea what I was in for. Unlike so many of these other movies, for whatever reason, I hadn't read about it. I knew absolutely nothing about it.
Hey, it is higher on someone else's list, Arthur.
It's higher.
Oh, it is? It's someone's number 1?
We'll just talk about it right now. Let's just do Possession
No,
now.
I'm done.
All right.
All right. Yeah, let's keep going.
If it's someone's number 1, good.
All right. So after Art, we have
Troy's number 2.
This one's just for Art. It's An American Werewolf in London.
It is somebody's number 1. So we're gonna jump to Bruce.
Oh, come on.
My number 2 was also An American Werewolf in London.
It's somebody's number 1 though. So and then, then we're gonna go to me.
All right.
And my number 2 is Possession. So that's it's higher on somebody else's list.
All right, so back to
we have
Art.
5 different number 1s.
Art, what's your number 1?
Wait, no, Nathaniel's number 1.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
Nathaniel's
sorry.
number 1.
Nathaniel, what's your number 1?
My number 1, American Werewolf in London.
There we go.
There we
Had
go.
to be. It's the greatest werewolf movie ever made. It has the greatest makeup effects of all time. Period. There's none better. It absolutely deserved to get the worst makeup Oscar. When it came out in 4K, I was actually this close to the screen. I was just gasping at how good the makeup in this movie is. I think the balance of horror and humor is great. I think performances are fantastic. Jenny Agutter is like awesome in this movie. Yeah, it's so quotable. The nightmare sequences just kill. Not one flaw that I can see in it.
See, even though you guys shit all over the Howling, you know, I'm gonna agree that American Werewolf I think is better. As much as I like the Howling, and the reason I like American Werewolf better is I get a stronger sense of tragedy out of it because I care about David. I find him to be a much more sympathetic character than any of the characters in The Howling, which introduces a whole sort of colony of werewolves, which is really cool. But it's kind of hard to have an audience identification thing going in that scenario, whereas American Werewolf, to me, that just harkens back to the classics like The Werewolf of London and The Wolfman, where you have the tragic protagonist. Mm-hmm. And I will say it was a movie that for years, and you know, Art might be interested to hear this, I always used to think, I don't get it. What's so great about this movie? Watched it numerous times. It's okay, but why is everybody? And then it was just one of those times I watched it and I was like, wow, I really like this now. So you never know.
Yeah, I saw it when I was a kid on cable, probably way too young to be watching it, but you know, I was a monster movie fan since birth. And it's just gotten just better and better with every watch. To me, it's a perfect blend of horror and comedy. The comedy never being at the expense of the characters. It's not a joke for joke's sake movie. Everything feels organic. The comedy comes out of the characters. It's not the situations, and they keep the horror as horrific as you can get. It's really, really intense stuff. So yeah, I think it's great. Like Nathaniel said, the makeup's great. The casting's perfect. Griffin Dunn is hilarious and is the sidekick. Jenny Agutter, one of my earliest cinematic crushes. And yeah, just fantastic movie all around.
Incorporating the songs about the moon, brilliant.
Oh, right, yeah.
The universal shout outs in the beginning, brilliant.
Yeah.
The end in Piccadilly Square, brilliant.
Yeah. Even a shout out to Oliver Reed as the werewolf in Curse of the Werewolf as well.
Right.
And
with a really funny joke too. Yeah, that's a good line. Yeah,
it is a good line. And talking to the cast too, I really love John Woodvine too as Dr. Kirsch.
He's great.
I think he gives a terrific performance. So yeah, everybody delivers. I mean, all the stuff with Brian Glover and whatnot at the Brick Mail. All good stuff.
Do you mind if we skip ahead and let Troy get his number one out of here over you, Art, so Troy can leave if he has to?
No, good.
Okay. Well, is that all right with you, Troy?
He just wants to be rid of me.
Oh no, you said I understand. Yeah, I mean, he was supposed to be out at 10:30, so he's
no. I was going to respond to something kindly that Troy just said, but I did. Now he has to go. He has to go.
No, you can respond if you want to. It's okay.
What? So it is very true what you're talking about. That sometimes you can watch a movie even multiple times, and it doesn't connect with you, and then finally you're like, "Wow, what have I been missing all these years?" I'm embarrassed to say that a movie that happened with for me was Motel Hell. I never cared for it. Yeah. And in preparation for a panel I was co-hosting with some of the cast of Motel Hell and its director not long ago, it's a great movie, and I don't know why I didn't connect with it. Some of these really seminal movies that I just don't hold in such high regard, I have tried multiple times with. I saw An American Werewolf in London in 35 millimeter at least twice. To me, it's just the makeup's amazing. Beyond that, it's just like a very mainstream kind of bland, not very funny, not very cool movie. Like, I don't get it. And The Howling, on the other hand, I think is genius. For listeners who think I'm a contrarian, at the end, which I am, at the end of the last episode, I got all teary-eyed kissing these guys' asses, telling them how brilliant they were. But I think I have to reconsider now because no one had fucking Mystics in Bali and Bloody Birthday on their fucking list, and they're talking about American Werewolf in London. Jesus fuck. Okay. All right. We can move on to everyone's number one now.
All right. So we'll do Troy's number one first. We have Nathaniel's An American Werewolf. Troy, you want to do your number one before Art?
All right. Well, my number one is Possession, which is another example of a film. I saw it for the first time. I was like, what in the hell was that? I didn't like it at all. I really didn't. I can understand why people were nuts about it. But I was like, I didn't like that. Didn't care for that at all. And then revisited it a few years. I think having gone through a divorce helped. Because now the movie really speaks to me and what it's about really connects with me on a certain level. It's a real gut punch. Everybody talks about Isabelle Adjani, and for good reason. She is absolutely magnificent, but Sam Neill is every bit as good. He is terrific in that film. As Nathaniel mentioned, he had a great year. Actually, it was James Mason who suggested him to the producers of The Third Omen. So, thank you to James Mason for helping to put Sam Neill into the mainstream. Because Possession sure as hell wasn't going to put him into the mainstream.
No.
It is a very emotionally draining film, but it's just brilliantly done, technically brilliant. It's disturbing. It gets under your skin. It's one of those movies that leaves you with all kinds of questions, which I like. I like that aspect. That's, I see that in a lot of Polanski films and things like that too, where you just kind of go away like, I'm not entirely sure. Was that really happening, or was it just in somebody's head kind of thing? I love films like that.
Right.
And I think it's a movie that just, it's brilliant. To me, it's by far the best of 1981.
Troy, did you see my friend Allie Melling? She's the one who does the layout of Ultraviolet magazine. She's the managing editor and does our layout and writes for us. Did you see her Possession Halloween costume from last year?
No.
Her mom helped her build it. She was the lead with the monster on her back. It was amazing. I
have to see
send
that.
you some pics. It was one of the best Halloween costumes.
Please send me the pictures. I'd like to see it.
So if you want to head out, you can. If you want, it's up to you.
I am going to, because I do have to depart because I have an early day tomorrow. But thank you all for tolerating me and for a very good discussion.
Good having you, Troy.
Great having you, Troy.
Talk to you all later then.
See you, man.
Bye-bye.
So I do think one of the things that Troy mentioned in regards to Possession that makes sense, he talked about going through a divorce. And I do think this movie kind of resonates differently, like if you've gone through like a really bad breakup or something, because like the movie doesn't necessarily make logical sense, but it makes perfect emotional sense. And just, the scenes, it's pitched so high that there's scenes that are like so much more relatable, if you're, familiar with those emotions. So yeah, it's just, it only ranked 10 on mine because, like as Troy said, it is an emotionally draining watch. But it does hit real hard. Those scenes of characters lashing out at each other or yelling, then like the immediate regret, and it really does have a intense feel to it.
I really hope that neither you nor Troy had relationships that dysfunctional. I mean, like that's like next level. I mean, like
I had one dysfunctional, but not like that.
No, I mean it's like I don't. Troy's like, I went through a divorce. I'm thinking like, was it like that though? Like fuck, man. But what's interesting too, I connected with it right away when I rented it, and but what was interesting to me is a lot of the time when you have a movie that's that obviously trying to use a monster as like a parable or to like analogize between like real life problems, and like it can be really corny or heavy handed, and Possession is just like, it just seems so natural. It just makes sense. Like, oh, there's this monster, it's
right.
Just like, what an interesting art form. And this movie also has been restored. I didn't get to see it on film, but I saw it theatrically maybe just a year or two ago, right? Like it was in theaters again. And that was cool, seeing it with an audience that presumably hadn't seen it.
Right.
An audience of today that's not really used to the level of sexuality and violence of movies from the past. Like, it was cool. It was a cool thing to see in an art house with an unsuspecting audience.
Right. Yeah. They played it in Baltimore about 15 years ago on film, maybe like 13 years ago. And yeah, I gathered a bunch of people to go see it who hadn't seen it before, and afterwards they were just like, what the fuck was that? But yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Yeah,
excellent movie.
It's a great watch, right? Yeah.
And the first time I saw this, I was like 14 and I had that DVD with Shock, and I put it in and I was ready to sit down and eat some frozen pizza, and I was like, oh, this is a video nasty, let's see what we're into. And I was just like, what the fuck is this thing? And I didn't really appreciate it until I got older and I fell in love with it and just realized just the acting is untouched. It's unfucking touchable in this movie. It's the best acting maybe ever from Isabella Gianni. That so influential of a character. Nathaniel?
The first time I saw this was actually the 80-minute chopped up version, which I still kind of have a weird soft spot for. I kind of like the way that it opens with the ballet torture scene. But yeah, this is just a fantastic movie. I love like every second of it. The camera work in this is mind blowing. I still have no idea how they pull off some of the shots in this. Like, Zulawski's a madman anyway. Like, all of his movies are kind of like, this one's like next level. Like the weird swooping that he does with this is just like, it blows my mind every time I watch it.
Yeah, like
the motorcycle scene when he drives off on the motorcycle. That camera work is like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, you really feel like the movie's just about to just explode, just fly in your face at any minute. It's just so out of control.
Yeah, like one of the only things that I had seen in recent years that kind of reminded me of this sort of Zulawski intensity was actually Darren Aronofsky's Mother. With its roving camera work and kind of it kind of escalates to this sort of like freak out insanity.
What about did you see Saint Maud?
I did. Yeah. I really like that.
That was stylistically the most similar movie to this that I've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
it's a good film.
The director's new movie is opening. There were screenings tonight and it opens this weekend. Love Lies Bleeding, and it's supposedly great. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's playing here this week. I might go try.
Yeah, it's her second feature. That was a great first feature. Not to be off topic, but
right.
A first film, yeah, that's fucking. It's a good movie.
But
anyway,
the pandemic fucked it up. Like it did not get screened theatrically hardly anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, that scream at the end of that movie says everything, right?
Right.
Art, you're for number one.
Fucking House by the Cemetery.
Okay, that was what, number 7 on my list. Did that make yours at all, Nathaniel?
Well, I said it would have been my number 2 if I didn't go with the Beyond, because I only wanted
Gotcha.
one movie. So
And it made my list as well.
Okay.
It was my number 7.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you and I were tied with that. All right, so talk about House by the Cemetery. In case
Well,
we didn't talk
Troy
about
and
enough.
I did a whole episode on
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can go watch our episode. But no, the House by the Cemetery, I have always thought was of this era of Fulci, not counting New York Ripper though, like up to before New York Ripper, from Black Cat to like the Beyond, Gates of Hell, House by the Cemetery. This is the most like cogent, tight, kind of makes sense, and like seeing it on film after having seen the Beyond on film, it really is just as gorgeous, and just like it just like epitomizes Fulci of that time period with its wild set pieces, awesome use of music, and it's just sort of like the tightest of the group, I think. And
It is.
Yeah.
I love the premise too. It's just such a sick premise. You know, this guy just living there eternally, recycling body parts to keep himself alive. Like, it's just really kind of fucked up. Also,
having Daniela Dora, the woman who got the knife through her mouth, that was the Ultraviolent logo forever and ever. She now has an Ultraviolent T-shirt, which she has taken pictures in, and it's just like, that's fanboy stuff if ever there was it. You know, like, that's just like dream come true shit. So fun fact. So the guy who plays Schweik in the Beyond, in the opening scene when he gets whipped and crucified, is that actor from The Killer Must Kill Again.
Yeah.
But the zombified version of him is actually a different actor.
Yeah.
And that the actor who plays the zombified version is the same guy who plays Freudstein in House by the Cemetery.
I had heard that. That had slipped my mind, but I had heard that. I'm too busy fanboying over Damien Glonick's art being worn by the actress who got the knife through her head to think about the actual film. But what a movie. And like, those of us who have had access, we shouldn't take for granted these 35 millimeter screenings. I mean, Troy doesn't live in a city, and so, or he lives in a very small city, if you can call it a city. And so he hasn't, he's written all these incredible books, but he's seen way less, of these movies on film that those of us who live in cities that where these things screen. I mean, the Warhol Museum used to have a great 35 millimeter film series. That's where I saw House by the Cemetery. I mean, I'm spoiled. I've gotten to spend a lot of time in New York, Chicago, and LA. I always check out movies when I'm there. But also, like, we have plenty of screenings here in Pittsburgh, whereas, like, a whole lot of people haven't had the luxury of seeing their favorite movies on film. And,
I'm beyond spoiled. Like, it's, with Exhumed Films doing all those screenings in Philly, like, I have seen. So, I mean, probably I've probably seen all 10 of mine on the big screen.
Yeah.
I've never seen Miss 45 on the big screen. But yeah, the rest of these.
I thought you did. Wasn't that in one of those marathons, or was that Driller Killer?
I saw Driller Killer on the big screen, but I have not seen Miss 45 on the big screen. But yeah, the rest of these, all I have seen on 35 millimeter.
I've never seen Bloody Moon on 35 millimeter, and I doubt I ever.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of House by the Cemetery. It's hard to keep like talking about them because we did like whole videos.
Right.
Like 2-hour videos on the one movie. It's like
just
watch that. Like we like it. But
so my number one pick is Art Edinger's favorite movie, and that would be, now this one's going to be a little contentious, Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead. Now there's some schools of people that might say this should be 1983. Not going to name any names or anything.
Well, The Beyond came out in the U.S. in 1983 too.
Yeah, but we're doing 1981.
I'm talking about actual theatrical release.
Right.
No, I know. And normally for New Year's, I don't use the IMDb, but
Yeah.
I mean, Dave said his rules were.
Yeah,
going
I was
by
gonna
the
say right.
IMDb
Yeah,
here.
Yeah.
Dave's rules are Dave's rules. So yeah,
I had to
me,
follow those rules, or
to
it
me-
gets insane.
To me, the Evil Dead has to be the number one. It is just as intense. I think Stephen King described it as ferocious, and that's a very good descriptor for it. Yeah, it's just as good now as it was when we rented it back in like 1987 or whenever.
I love Evil Dead. I don't know why you said Art's not going to be happy or whatever. I love Evil Dead.
It's my
It's
number
the greatest
5.
horror movie of 1983.
I love Evil Dead. I love the innovativeness. I think that it's way ahead of its time. I mean, like, it started the whole like basic kick-started that Cabin in the Woods. I mean, there was Cabin in the Woods movies like Equinox and stuff because that lifts from that. But in reality, I mean, a bunch of people saw that and were like, we could make a horror movie, and that's the number one horror movie that people say we can make our own damn thing. It's Sam Raimi, his camera work, his funness, his energy. It's just contagious. And I consider this, with Night of the Living Dead and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like just the regional like trio of lightning in a bottle horror movies of America.
Right. So yeah, I guess that leaves us to you for your number one, unless someone else has something to say about Evil Dead. Going once. All right,
sold. They're waiting for 83. They're gonna they're on for 83. They'll put it as their number one. My number one is The Beyond. Not only is it one of my all-time favorite horror movies, my favorite movie 81. It's so close to being maybe. Do I like it more than Zombie? I love this movie to death. It's in my top 10 horror movies ever made. I just adore it. So I know it was made everybody's list. So have at it. We just talked about it for 2 hours. So
yeah, I think the only other thing I could say is to compare it to Zombie. The only reason I would possibly choose Zombie over The Beyond is because I saw Zombie first, and it was such a catalyst for me to seek out the rest of these movies. So Zombie is always going to have that nostalgia factor behind it. Where I mean, Zombie was literally a life changer for me. You know, that eyeball scene, the splinter in the eyeball. Like, you know, I was at a girlfriend's house. We were watching that movie. Making out and stuff, and then that happened, and literally I stopped and I was like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. So it sent me on a search to find as many of these kind of crazy Italian movies as I could.
Bruce, did that relationship end better than Possession?
Barely.
Anybody else have any words about Beyond, or do you want me to read off these stats super quick?
I'm very curious about the stats.
Yeah, hit the stats.
Okay, so basically, do you want me to read the top 10? I took everyone's number, so if it was number 1, it got 10 points. If it was number 10, you got 1 point.
Perfect.
And there's 26 different films that made the list out of a potential 50.
Yeah, I was trying to. When me and Art were talking about this the other day, I was trying to guess how many different films there would be between the 5 of us, and I think I said at least 15 to 20. So there, you said there's 26.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll
wait.
go
There's only 26 total movies between all of us.
Yes.
Yeah. So we had a lot of crossover. I can do the crossover before I get in the list because that's kind of the highlight. Bruce and Art had 5 films in common on their list. Bruce and Troy had 6. Bruce and Nathaniel had 8 in common. Bruce and me had 6. Art and Troy had 3. Art and Nathaniel had 3. Art and Dave had 3. Troy and Nathaniel had 5. Troy and Dave had 5. And Nathaniel and myself had 4. So, Bruce and Nathaniel are most alike, while
That's so
Art,
funny.
and then
It does not
Bruce-
surprise me.
No, not at all.
Bruce had 0 movies that no one else had. Everybody had one. Bruce had the most popular list. Art had
Wait, did
5
you just
movies.
call Bruce a basic bitch?
He did.
A
He
little
did.
bit. So Art had 5 movies no one else had. The most unique list. Troy had 4. Nathaniel had 3, and I had 4 as well.
Okay.
So I'll start from the top and go down. Do you want the lit? How many points they got to, or do you just
might as
want
well.
the?
Might as well.
Okay.
Yeah, might as well. Whatever.
So number 1 is The Beyond with 40 points. It made all 5 lists. Tied next for the 2-3 spot is Possession and American Werewolf in London with 36 points. Possession made 5 lists and American made 4. Then number 4 with 27 points, Dead and Buried, 4 list. 5, House by the Cemetery, 4 list. 6, House by the Cemetery got 25 points. 6, 17 points, My Bloody Valentine, made 3 list. Number 7, 16 points, The Evil Dead, made 2 list. Number 8, 9 points. Miss 45 made 2 lists. 9 points, so I guess it's technically a tie here. Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker made 2 lists. Number 10, 9 points, 3-way tie for the last 3. Burial Ground also made 3 lists. And then all the rest of them made 1 list, it looks like. Yes, which is crazy. So that's what, there's basically only 10 movies that shared any list. And that, honestly, if you look at that top 10, I think that's a very good top 10 for a year. Like, I love those, all great movies. Right. So then we have, I won't give the points here because they're essentially just get the marker of the point. Like, Mystics and Valleys 11. 12 is The Howling, tied with Bloody Birthday at 13. Then we have The Burning 14, Polyester 15, Hell Night 16. There, a lot of these are ties. 17, Corpse Mania. They all made 1 list though, so you see what I'm saying. 18, right. Final Conflict. 19, Dark Knight Scarecrow. 20, Venom. 21, Raw. 22, Friday 13th Part 2. And then we have the Oneers, everybody's first one except Bruce's, because this was Possession. So we have 23, The Pit. 24, Nightmare. 25, Night of the Werewolf. 26, Bloody Moon. So that's the stats there. Pretty good list. All great movies on there, I think.
Yeah, not a bad year at all. Yeah, and it was tough to make 10. It was real tough to pick 10.
Like, it's hard to do 25,
right?
To be honest,
and much less put them in order.
I had to rank all of the original 72 video nasties for this project for David Gregory, and that was a pain in the ass. But when that list came out, I was very, very sad with only one fact, which was that Cannibal Terror was like almost universally like one of the worst ones, and I had it like way high up on mine.
What was your bottom one?
I can't remember. I'd have to pull my list. I can tell you in a moment though.
To be honest, I imagine there's some pretty bad ones in there, right?
Not really. I liked them. I kind of liked the I kind of liked the list. Where is this? Yeah, it's not popping right out. I'll look at one other place. This was fun. I think we
I'm glad we stayed on for we stayed it later to get Troy on here. That really helped. Let's do some shout outs and anything. If you guys want to watch the other videos, we have Nathaniel on for Halloween 2. We have Bruce on.
Did not make our list.
Yeah.
yeah. Weirdly enough, right? We talked about it for 2.5 hours. Yeah, it didn't make either of our lists.
I do love it. That shows you how. Yeah, that's how hard this was. It didn't make my list, but I love the movie.
Yeah, how did Halloween 2 not make your list?
Yeah, it didn't make 5 lists. It didn't make 5 lists. So many good movies only made 1 list.
Yeah.
Then we also had Bruce on for Burial Ground with Art, and then we had Art on for House by the Cemetery with Troy, and Troy was on for Venom and the Black Cat, and Art was also on for Cannibal Ferox. Am I missing any? Were you on another one, Bruce, or were you on the 2?
No, just those 2, and then the Beyond.
Okay. Yeah, and the Beyond, of course, which all of us were just on.
Right.
So if you guys have other shout outs.
No, just keep watching the channel. Hopefully we'll be back for the next season.
Yep.
Yeah.
Were there any good movies in '82? I don't remember.
A couple. They had what? Let me. I couldn't think of a real bad one off the top of my head. Like I was trying to think of a real bad one. There's not really that many bad ones, to be honest. It's a pretty good year. I guess. No, I can't think of any really crappy ones. What's the worst movie from 1982?
Yeah, not much.
No,
it was a good year.
Death Screams. There we go. That's 82, isn't it?
I actually don't hate Death Screams.
I don't hate it, but it's not top tier caliber.
I actually kind of like it in a weird.
Do you want to know what my lowest video nasty was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anthropophagus.
What?
All right. That made my top 25 in 1980. Yeah.
Yeah. How the hell is that? Like maybe
it's boring as fuck.
No way. I love Anthropophagus.
Oh, The Howling is boring, but Anthropophagus is a real fucking stunner.
there was definitely 40 minutes.
In the second worst
I still love
it. Unhinged.
I like Unhinged too. That's a real twisted one.
I like all these movies, but I had something had to be at the bottom.
I mean, you like that better than like I Miss You, Hugs and Kisses, or that fucking like Jimmy Blacksmith and stuff?
Jimmy Blacksmith isn't one of the original ones.
Section 3.
Whatever. I don't know. I'm not British. I don't care about video nasties.
Well, David Gregory does.
Okay. Yes, he does.
Any other shout outs before we get out of here?
No, again, just thanks for having us. It was fun to do these lists. Looking forward to more of them.
Of course. I appreciate you guys coming on.
No, it was a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
For having us.